following Celtic in the Europa Cup.
There we go then. Final score: Stuttgart 0, Celtic 1, and obviously Stuttgart won 4-2 in aggregate tonight. But yeah, it feels a bit kind of weird coming on the show and saying Celtic that out of Europe, but they played well. Joined tonight by Ethan Barlow, and get your comments coming in after the game. I think when we done the show before the game, we didn't know what to expect. But Celtic played well tonight, and the other goal as well by Luke McCowan. And you're thinking, well, could it be?
Yeah, you were, and that's the attitude that the players certainly looked like they took when they got that very early goal. I think Luke McCowan joined an illustrious group of players to score in the first minute of a European tie. There's not many at all, and yeah, it was a really good goal as well from a Celtic point of view. Really well worked. I think they won the ball back after pressing Stuttgart, which is something we've not seen, which was a lot better tonight in the last two games against Hibs and Stuttgart. They pressed their opponents and forced them into some errors, and that's how they get the first goal. Cal McGregor works it out well to Yang on the right-hand side. It was a really nice ball infield to Junior Adamu, and then he takes a touch. I think the defender stumbles a little bit, and he plays it to Luke McCowan. It's an excellent finish, first time from him for his first European goal. And at that point, maybe Celtic fans in the ground were dreaming a little bit, but it felt like it was going to, even then, it felt the inevitable that Stuttgart were going to sort of get on top of the game and dominate possession and the chances, and that certainly happened. But Celtic defended very admirably and can be happy with their night's work. I think the players that started the game, and we spoke about these players having the opportunity to get in Martin O'Neill's thoughts ahead of the game on Sunday, and I think that's certainly what a lot of them have done. There's a lot of positions that I thought I had a certain player in my mind, and I'm sure the Celtic manager probably had in the same that would start that match on Sunday at Ibrox. But there's a few up in the air now, a few excellent performances. I thought Luke McCowan on top of his goal was really, really good, really positive. Every time he took on the ball, he tried to make something happen, and yeah, he was one of a few really stand out from a Celtic point of view. But an excellent result and performance on the night. And of course, Stuttgart had rotated their team as well. But you know what it's like, these teams in the top five leagues, especially, usually the player they're bringing in as the backup is as good or near enough as good as the player who's starting. So top quality squads. They've got big squads, and the Celtic backups tonight done themselves proud and done the club proud. The first time they've won in Germany, of course, was the stat that the commentary team revealed to us, and only the second team to beat Stuttgart in the home ground this season, alongside Bayern Munich, who have beat them twice. So yeah, that shows the feat that Celtic achieved tonight. And of course, they had to ride their luck at times with the offside goal, which would have been a very sour goal to concede with the circumstances of Demirovic coming back on, and there was nothing Celtic could really do about that when he came back onto the pitch after the head knock, and was immediately part of the attack and obviously contributed to the goal. So I think that was justice served that got ruled out. But no, Celtic were really good, and they didn't have too many chances, but they defended well and pressed in moments. And yeah, I think a really positive night for Celtic on what looked like a really negative game ahead of it. It looked like a dead rubber, and of course it kind of was, but you could see towards the end Stuttgart were respecting Celtic and trying to run down the clock and stuff like that, because they wanted to avoid Celtic getting a second and then it really being nerves around the Stuttgart fans in the stadium, who, as you were speaking about the atmosphere before the game, they were excellent. And it was a really good performance and result for Celtic on the night, on top of which I think we said after the first leg that we were sort of writing off the tie. So yeah, good result for Celtic, good performance, and some headaches for Martin O'Neill.
I was thinking during the game, because we spoke about in the first half of the show about what are we going to expect tonight as well. But do you feel as though that the Celtic players took this mindset that the pressure was off a wee bit? And
I think they
yeah.
Yeah, I think they might have done, Michael, and they played with a sort of freedom and a sort of what we could say, nothing to lose here attitude that I don't think we've seen from Celtic in a while. And obviously, almost every other game they've played, certainly recently, and as we touched on, probably for the rest of the season, will be a cup final to them, whether that's in the Scottish Cup or in the league, with the margin at the top being so tight and being almost no margin for error. But these players came in with the opportunity to maybe prove some people wrong in terms of the fans that maybe doubted them and whether they're good enough to be Celtic players, and maybe the manager as well for not giving them opportunities in the starting 11 earlier. I thought the whole defence and goalkeeper were really, really good. Yami Sinisalo had a really solid night. He didn't make any world-class saves or anything like that, but Kasper Schmeichel hasn't been making the sort of saves you would expect recently, and I'm glad he got his opportunity tonight, Sinisalo, and I think he really took it. He obviously gets a clean sheet. I think the first in around 10 matches for Celtic or something like that, because they've been on a terrible run recently of conceding goals. So, yeah, really good for him, and I think he's done himself almost all the favours he could do to get in Martin O'Neill's spots ahead of Sunday. I think you told me there that he was saying that he wants to start on Sunday, and of course he does. He was saying that after the game, and if I was Martin O'Neill, which I'm obviously not, that I would have Sinisalo start on Sunday, because I just think with Kasper Schmeichel, I think it's inevitable that there's an error coming up, and he's obviously been an excellent goalkeeper. He brings excellent experience to the back line, but he's made too many mistakes recently, and I think tonight was the perfect opportunity to give Sinisalo the nod in goals, and I think he's grabbed the opportunity with two hands, and maybe now it is his position to lose, but I do expect Martin O'Neill to go with Kasper Schmeichel on Sunday. But yeah, the back four as well, I thought were really good. Marcelo Serraccio, he's obviously a quality player, just playing behind a better player in Kieran Tierney. Austin Trusty obviously been starting, and we've seen performances like this from him in Europe before, where it's backs to the wall and having to stay concentrated, and I think that's what he done tonight. Dane Murray probably has best performance in a Celtic shirt tonight. I thought he was absolutely excellent, and maybe if Benjamin Arthur was the thought that he was going to start the game alongside Liam Scales on Sunday, I think Dane Murray can possibly have altered Martin O'Neill's thoughts on that as well, because he was absolutely immense. And I know the game will be obviously played differently at Ibrox. It'll probably be a lot more open of a game with less of the dominance there was tonight. And then Kobe Donovan, who had a really tough shift up against Jamie Leveling, who was really good in the first leg and was probably Stuttgart's biggest threat in the first half. I don't know why he got taken off at half time. I don't know if it was an injury or just trying to maybe keep him sharp for the next game, but he would have been relieved. But Chris Furuk, who came on, was just as good as a player. He obviously got the goal that was offside, and he caused some problems as well. Kobe Donovan did pick up the yellow card, and I even thought Anthony Ralston came on and put on a decent shift as well when he was called upon. So yeah, really good performance from the Celtic players, and I think they can be really proud of themselves. And I think the travelling fans will be really proud of the players, because obviously they would have wanted more to play for tonight and it'd be a closer tie. But they went out there knowing that they were all but out the tie, and Celtic went over there, got their first win in Germany against a side that doesn't lose at home almost at all this season, and especially with some fringe players playing as well. So yeah, a really good night all round for Celtic if you take it in isolation.
Yeah, I was. The Celtic fans will be enjoying the German beer over there tonight. But you got me thinking, Ethan, if anybody's can think about this, when the last time Celtic kept a clean sheet. Now, I don't know about you, Ethan, but I think it was Dundee United when Martin O'Neill came back for the second time at home, because I was going to say before that was the Falkirk game, but of course Dundee United game was the first game Martin O'Neill came back, and then the Falkirk was a midweek game, I think. And as well, but I'm sure it's Dundee United as well. But
it was, sorry, Michael, it was the 5. It wasn't actually as many as I thought it was, but 5 without a clean sheet for Celtic. The last one was Falkirk at home when they won 2-0. But even just before that, they can ship 2 goals against Utrecht, ship 2 goals against Hearts, ship 2 goals against Bologna. Of course, they played Auchinleck Talbot, which you would expect them to keep a clean sheet in that one. And the next one was the away trip at Falkirk, and then the one before that was at home to Dundee United, the first game of the second Martin O'Neill tenure. So, yeah, the clean sheets haven't come by too often for Celtic recently, and against a really top opposition, regardless of the fact, as I said, they rotated the team. They still brought on their star players by the end. Demirovic, their number 9, and Elkanous, I know he didn't play too much, but he came on at the end. He scored 2, and Angelo Stiller as well, who's probably their best player, the midfielder. So yeah, they respected the Sebastian Hoeneß respected the challenge that Celtic put down in this match, and if Celtic had maybe got another one, which is a big maybe, but then there would have been real pressure on the Germans to see out that game, and even at an injury time, you can see them not throwing the ball in the box. Stuttgart when they've got corners, try to keep the ball, and that's because Celtic really caused a threat in the game, especially on the counter attack. And as I said, they can be really proud of their performance tonight. And the only shame is that it didn't really matter too much in the context of the European journey. But I thought Cal McGregor had a decent game, nothing special by his standards, but it was okay. I thought Rio Hatate was okay in points, but same again, I don't think he's really moved the needle on the thoughts of probably the manager and the Celtic fans. Luke McCowan, as I said, I thought he was excellent. I thought he was the man of the match when he was on the pitch. Daizen Maeda was okay. Some things fell his way, some things didn't. He got in positions with his pace. Junior Adamu looked a threat at points as well. And then who was all the substitutes that came on? Shivan Chara was okay, put in a shift. As I said, Ralston was solid. Nigrin, Taneke didn't get into the game too much. Kelechi Iheanacho, I thought, had some good touches, as he usually does when he comes on as well. So plenty of things to be positive about for Celtic night, but the overriding feeling of the tie is of course of disappointment. But you've got to put that behind you. Last week's result, all you can focus on is the here and now and the future, and that's what Celtic did tonight. And it's a positive morale boosting result to take into Sunday, which I said I didn't see Celtic having any chance of winning at Ibrox. Maybe I've changed a little bit. I still have Rangers as favourites as the home side, and I think the team playing better at the minute. But it does beg the question, does Martin O'Neill keep a similar team and maybe make a few changes here and there, or does he make another 8-9 changes and go back to what he was playing before that was really poor? Because Celtic played with an intensity tonight that I've not seen the team play with in a couple of games, and that's something that maybe the players that started the last game or started the last 2 games will play with now that they know their positions are maybe up for contention. But yeah, it's a really big selection headaches for the manager, and that's always a good thing when you're, as I said, I think I touched on this before, you'd rather be picking between who's the better player rather than who's the worst player not to play, which seemed to be the case for Celtic going into this game. So yeah, really positive night for Scottish football as well. A nice little ending to what has been a pretty poor European campaign from start to finish for all the clubs really, especially I'd say Celtic and Rangers, so the expectations of them and the financial backing that they have. So yeah, and of course, so the Scottish coefficient as well, which we obviously know is struggling and has got to a point of, I think it's irreversible how bad the coefficient's got. But a win against a good side will always contribute towards that as well. So yeah, positive night on what has been a pretty negative few weeks for Celtic.
I was going to say to you, in fact, we said this when we came off here the first time, even about Donovan and Murray. I said to you, I think the last game they played together was under Brendan Rodgers at Tynecastle, and that. But I think they had one of the better games tonight. I thought they defended well throughout the game. I don't know about you. Obviously, I'll ask you in a wee bit about who do you pick for Sunday and all that. But I think like it's a shame to get McCowan in that team just because he scored the goal in his overall game tonight.
Yeah, I think quite possibly McCowan's probably fought away certainly into the thinking of Martin O'Neill. I don't think Martin O'Neill will go for him. I almost want him to after how well he played tonight. But I just think he was too far down in the pecking order going into tonight. He's not really started the game at all recently and not really making too many substitute appearances either. I just think it would be a big twist to go from not really in the picture of contributing to starting a game, and which obviously using to rotate the squad primarily, and then going all the way into starting a derby match at Ibrox. And I think his performance possibly warrants that, but whether that will be the case, I just think that he's going to obviously play Callum McGregor in that midfield three. I don't see him switching. I think possibly it's been needed a wee bit of a switch in the formation and the style just to it's became a bit stale, the 4-3-3. I think I made that point before. But I think Cal McGregor is going to start at Ibrox. I think Benjamin Negan's going to start at Ibrox just based on his goal threat. And I think the one that he can maybe replace in that midfield would be Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who I thought was okay again against Hibs. But you can still tell that he's trying to get up to speed and he's not going to be able to play a full 90 minutes at Ibrox. So maybe a substitute cameo from Luke McCowan is the most realistic thing. But we've also seen him play on the right-hand side of the front three or the wing this season. I think Yang maybe done enough tonight to warrant a start on Sunday, but that would be the one that's up in the air because I think McGregor and Negan will definitely start. I think Chivan Chara will start up front. I expect Tanetke to start on the left wing. And I think Yang will get the nod on the right. I think Luke McCowan will be on the substitutes bench, but I certainly think he'll have a part to play, which he might not have had he not had the performance he did tonight.
I think one man that we have to speak about is Sinisterra and goals. I don't think that was a surprise to a lot of Celtic fans that it would have been scant tonight. But I mean, Celtic played well tonight, but I'm only counting Stuttgart having 2 or 3 shots at goal, and he handled them quite comfortably, you would say. And as I said, before I came on, I heard him talking to Conor McLaughlin after the game, and he was saying that if I'm ready for Sunday if the manager picks me, but because he's saying that now, he's probably put Martin O'Neill in a kind of difficult, funny position about what we're playing or on Sunday. What we're flowing into a big game, what we're flowing into a difficult atmosphere at Ibrox this time as well. But there was a lot of pressure coming into the game tonight because obviously, as you know as well as I do, a goalkeeping is a very specialised position. You're only one man in that team, and that's the goalkeeper. But I thought he handled himself well tonight.
Yeah, I thought he did. I thought he was really solid, and I think the biggest thing is he seemed to bring an air of confidence to the back four in front of him. They seem to be a lot more confident in their goalkeeper than what they have been recently, and that's obviously a big thing in terms of defending and being in possession. So yeah, I thought he was really solid and looked like the on current form the strongest goalkeeper that the club have got. But the thing is, it's whether Martin O'Neill's willing to take the big decision, and that would be the big decision in taking Kasper Schmeichel out of the strongest or the so-called strongest in the starting 11 for the trip to Ibrox, because you don't know what kind of, I don't know how much power he has in that dressing room, and these are all sort of variables that we looking in from the outside can't know. But I think based on the recent performances, I would say Sinisalo should start, but I don't think he will. I think he'll go with Kasper Schmeichel, and hopefully Kasper Schmeichel sort of earns his selection. But based on his recent performances, I fear there's an inevitability coming around to if he would to start that game. Unfortunately, just with how low in confidence he must be, I think, and I know he doesn't really give that off. I don't think, and how he plays and maybe how he acts, but it's only natural for a footballer if they've made so many errors that they're going to not going to have full confidence in themselves to carry out their position well. So yeah, I think that's a massive selection headache for Martin O'Neill and a massive decision, which I think he'll be thinking about until probably Saturday. I think it'll be when the team is sort of said to the players. So yeah, he'll be scratching his head between now and Saturday, and knowing the character he is, he probably won't even be able to take any sort of pride in tonight's. He'll take pride, obviously, but in tonight's result. But he'll also be scratching his head and stressing about what team he's going to field for Sunday's massive game. And the other one that I think's really done himself no harm in getting into that team on Sunday would be Dane Murray. I actually would have probably went with Benjamin Arthur for that game, but now seeing how Dane Murray played tonight, maybe he would get the nod. But it's a completely different atmosphere at Ibrox than it would be tonight. I know Stuttgart were very good. The crowd was very up for the game, despite it looking like a game that they had already had wrapped up. It'll be a completely different atmosphere off the pitch and on the pitch in terms of the intensity in which the opposition players are probably playing with on Sunday. So yeah, it's going to be a big game and a big challenge for whoever starts alongside Liam Scales in that back two. I think the full backs will pick themselves. I think it'll be Araujo and Tierney, regardless of the performances of the players who started tonight. But yeah, some selection headaches for Celtic, and I think that's what the Celtic fans would have asked for before the game. These players to step up and show that they're capable of being Celtic players.
Another angle that you might have to look at because Sinisalo's in goals tonight, and then if he refers back to Schmeichel on Sunday, is because do you think Martin O'Neill knew that at the back of his mind that we're going over there to obviously win the game, but we're out of Europe, so just give him a game and see how he fares in goals.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think it was the perfect opportunity that he didn't really need an excuse to switch the goalkeeper. I think it would have been big news if he had switched it for the league game at the weekend against Hibs, or a massive game which Celtic need to win at home to Hibs. And he's taken his number one goalkeeper, Kasper Schmeichel, out for Ojavi Sinisalo. But because he switched so many positions, and it actually probably, I made the point before that you could almost make the case that because Celtic have been playing so poorly with the usual starters, that maybe giving these sort of players who haven't had as many starts the opportunity can sometimes work in a positive fashion, as in you can't get any worse than what's been playing before, kind of thing. So yeah, it was the perfect opportunity to give Sinisalo the nod tonight and really introduce him to what Kasper Schmeichel's up against in that battle for the number one spot. So yeah, as I said, he's done himself no harm tonight. Sinisalo, he was really solid. For the goal they scored, could they have done better? Possibly, but it was really well struck shot. It was low, it went through bodies. I think I'd would be being harsh if I said he should have saved it. So yeah, I thought he had a really good display, and personally, I hope he does get the nod on Sunday. But as I said, I think it will be Kasper Schmeichel in goals.
See, going back to Donovan and Dane Murray for a minute, Ethan, it's easy for us to come on the show and say Celtic win the game and they played well. But if Celtic get beat, we would have been talking a lot, a different show, and you might not be on the show because Celtic get beat. But do you think that putting on obviously you're going to have to put Sinisalo in this conversation. That it will give him confidence because playing in that atmosphere and that level. And okay, Celtic were out anyway, but you still got to go. You still got to go and win the game and put on a professional performance, and they've done that. So do you think that will give him more confidence?
Yeah, I think it certainly will. And, Sinisalo is pretty unexperienced in situations like this, especially at club level. I know he's played some big games, I think, for the Finland national team and probably some pretty hostile atmospheres. But in terms of playing for Celtic, he's not really had an opportunity like this. And I think he grabbed it with two hands, and he'll take real confidence from the fact that he was able to command his box, he was able to communicate with his defenders and fill them with confidence. I think it makes some solid saves as well, on top of the fact that he keeps a clean sheet in a very difficult venue to do so against a team who barely lose at home this season. So, yeah, an excellent, I think an excellent night for him in terms of his career moving forward. And he is only 24, which is very young for a goalkeeper. You look, Kasper Schmeichel is, let me double check his age. He's 39, so that's, what would that be? Probably, 15 years on him, but probably multiple times the amount of experience that Sinisalo has. So he's still got the opportunity, I think, to be the Celtic number one goalkeeper moving forward. Whether that'll be the here and now or beyond the summer, when we think inevitably Kasper Schmeichel will move on from Celtic and will not extend his contract, or the club will not extend his contract rather. But yeah, I think this would be a perfect time to get him in goals and see what he's really made of in a consistent run of games. I know he had that run of games last season, but Celtic were really sort of had won the league already, if I remember correctly. And they hadn't won the league already, but they were certainly strong favourites to win the league. And then obviously they brought Kasper Schmeichel back in when he was back from his injury against Aberdeen, and then he makes the mistake in the final. So if you're wanting Sinisalo to be your future goalkeeper, or you're wanting to at least see if he's up to the task of being the future goalkeeper, then I think you've got to give him a run of games towards the end of this season. And it's not a sort of charitable run of games because Celtic are winning everything by a mile. It's because he is quite possibly the best goalkeeper the club have got at the minute on current form, and I think his performance tonight would warrant another start at Ibrox. But whether that is the case is another question. Just before lunchtime on Sunday, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and also as well, Ethan, that we're coming to this stage of the season where after this week, Celtic will only have one game a week now up till the split, or maybe because I know that in previous years after the split that they have a midweek game, but I'm talking about after the Aberdeen game. I'm sure that they've got no midweek games now. Not unless there's a kind of league game thrown in. I'm not actually sure, but I doubt it. I think it'll be one game a week now.
You're right. Well. One game a week. After they play Aberdeen, as you said, it is down to one game a week now, until, if there's any games in the split, or of course any postponements, which I wouldn't write off the cards with Scotland's weather troubles, especially this calendar year in the northeast.
Stuttgart got a goal in the second half. I was ruled out by our favourite person in the world, VAR. I think, I know this is a bit weird me saying this, but it would be a bit hard done by Stuttgart got a goal because obviously the tie was well over before tonight's game, let's face it. But Celtic put a lot of effort into that game. Right decision, do you think, for the goal?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was the right decision. Maybe not the right decision in terms of the offside, because I couldn't, looking at my screen, even with the lines, I couldn't really make out whether it was on or offside. But I think it was just terrible officiating to let the player back on at that time in the game, because they were on the attack and he pretty much just put him on at the perfect opportunity to blindside the Celtic defence and get into a really good area on the pitch, which is not when the player should be coming back on to the field. So, yeah, they made an error with that, but justice was served in the way that the goal was ruled out. They obviously had the other one, which was offside, which I noticed was offside straight away. Chris Furyk with the strike. He done really well, actually, when he came in on his right foot. But, yeah, I think on another night, Stuttgart could have scored one or two, but I think Celtic defended really well, and that's why they didn't. And the strange thing with Celtic this season is I feel like they played better away from home in the Europa League than they have at home, which is not something you would usually associate, apart from obviously the sort of sobering defeat at the start of Martin and O'Neill's first tenure in Denmark against Michelin. But at home, you think of the Stuttgart, they obviously get beat heavily in the first leg, didn't play well. Roma, of course, under Wilfried Nancy. Braga as well, that was under Brendan Rodgers, I think. So, yeah, really not played too well at home, and shot himself in the foot, certainly in this tie. And it's a story of what ifs, because if Celtic had played better in the first leg and they had maybe defended and the goalkeeper had made saves I think he should have made, then might be talking about a different second leg. But then again, it's what ifs, isn't it? And Celtic weren't good enough across the two legs, but they were good tonight, and that's where you need to take the positives from.
I know, because I bet a lot of Celtic fans were actually thinking when McKinnon scored the goal, they were thinking, well, could this be our night? But then again, they could be thinking, well, only if that happened last week at Celtic Park, it would have been a maybe different outcome.
Yeah, exactly that, and that'll be the one frustrating thing at the back of the I think the Celtic collective's mind, that the fans, the players, Martin O'Neill, that they didn't make a good showing of themselves last week. And I know Martin O'Neill said in the press conference that he didn't think it was a 4-1 game and whatever, but I thought Celtic were really poor in that first leg, and I know they were playing against a good opposition. We've seen that tonight. They dominated the ball. They had a lot of chances. They have quality players, but Celtic didn't compete well enough in that first leg. They competed a lot better tonight, and got I would say, I would maybe not say deserved win, because Stuttgart had a lot of chances, but they got a deserved, prideful performance and result with the effort and commitment they put into the game, regardless of the fact that it looked like they were going to be out even after McKowen got the goal. And I actually thought the opposite watching the game. I thought it was going to be the inevitable that Celtic take the lead and then Stuttgart go on to win by a few, but pleasantly surprised by how Celtic played in both the first and second half, and then seeing out the win is really impressive. So, yeah, positive, and it'll give that squad a lot of confidence, I think, going into Sunday. Whether it'll give them enough quality to overturn Rangers is another question, but what a massive game that is on Sunday, and I think it sets it up a lot better now that Celtic have won that game, because I think a lot of people, including myself, really fancied Rangers to be the big favourites, but now Celtic have shown that they are actually, in fact, capable of challenging an opposition in a game and getting a result as well. So, yeah, that'll make Sunday, I think, more interesting. I'm even more excited for it now than I was before the game.
It's funny how football kind of like twists and turns, but I think you're right, because I think that will give the Celtic full credit to Celtic fans. You would think they won the game tonight, the way that they were celebrating even before the game as well. But I think that would give massive credit to Celtic fans, to the team as well, going in Ibrox, because that's the last thing you want for Celtic to go over there and for Stuttgart to outplay Celtic and they get beat 2-0 on the night or whatever. But I wouldn't say they dominated the game tonight. It wasn't that kind of game, I don't think, but they done enough. But the bottom line is it was 1-0, and they'll be looking forward to Sunday now. Albeit it was going to be a difficult game anyway, no matter if Celtic get beat or win. But just because that, as you said, that they kept that clean sheet as well.
Yeah, it was always gonna be a difficult game going to Ibrox, but I think Celtic players will be a lot more confident now than they would have been after the last two games. If you can win at Stuttgart, then you can win at Ibrox. I know it doesn't always work like that, but I think this Celtic team have shown that they are capable of putting in a performance and getting a result, and they have shown that for most of Martin O'Neill's two spells. It was just those last two games where you were thinking that they had run out of steam, and maybe Martin O'Neill had ran out of his sort of magic stars or whatever you want to call the luck that they had across the games previously. But I think it gives them a little bit of a little bit of confidence going into Sunday's game, and it'll be interesting to see who he opts to go for in the starting lineup. It'll be interesting to see who Danny Rowe goes for as well, because obviously he's got a lot of selection headaches. Is he going to stick with is he going to go with the two up top or the one up top? Is maybe Martin O'Neill going to switch the system? You just don't know what's going to happen, and that's what makes it so entertaining. I would maybe, I don't know. I think if Celtic had lost tonight and the manner of performance hadn't been great, I would have probably completely ruled them out of the title race if they had lost on Sunday. But now, after that performance, I think if they were to lose, I think it would be a major setback. Don't get me wrong, but I think they would still be in with a chance. And the only reason I would be counting them out, and I think everyone else would be counting Celtic out after Sunday, would be because of the sort of moral struggles they would have had to go through losing what would have been 4 games on the bounce, and what that sort of does to you as a player. But yeah, I think Hearts, Rangers and Celtic are going to be in it right until the end, and hopefully if the three of them drop enough points, then it can open the door to Motherwell, who I would say are currently the best team in Scotland at the minute, and I don't think anyone can argue with that based on how they've played, certainly recently.
One man who's been taking not a lot of stick from a lot of Celtic fans, but because the rumour was out about who wanted to leave Celtic as Dylan Maeda, and he's not been the same player for the past couple of weeks. For the past couple of weeks, but also, I thought he had quite a decent game tonight compared to. I mean, I'm basing it on to the last few weeks, even compared to tonight.
Yeah, he did. He did have a decent game, a decent outing from him, and you can see he's not the same player as he was last season. But you know that was a ridiculous season from Dyson Maeda that I don't think anybody could have expected him to win the Golden Boot, him to be so clinical, score so many big goals in big games, goals against Rangers, goals in the Champions League at home and away. Home to Bayern Munich, and playing a big part in the goal away from home. I think you could have expected that he was not going to be the same player, and I think it's been really disappointing the extent of the demise that he's had this season. And obviously it's going to be difficult for him. He expected to move on, and Celtic obviously rejected the opportunity for him to go to Wolfsburg, I believe Martin O'Neill said it was. But he can obviously be a player that Celtic can use between now and the end of the window, not the end of the window, sorry, the end of the season. And then when the transfer window comes around, Celtic should move him on. But Celtic are going to probably lose out on a lot of money than what they would have done selling him in that summer just gone. So that's another example of Celtic not really running the football club, I think, the best. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done at Celtic, but the priority now is the league title and retaining that, and giving them the best chance of getting back into the Champions League, which seems a long way away at the minute. But if they were to win on Sunday, then as you said, it all changes so quickly in football, and that could flip the whole script as the whole script was flipped even on Sunday there when Livingston were beating Rangers 2-0 and Celtic equalised, and it looks like maybe Celtic are going to go on to get a winner, and then it turns out Celtic lose and Rangers probably in the end should have won the match. So yeah, there's been so many twists in this title race, and I think there will be a fair few more between now and the end.
Now the always question is, even when I do these shows and my clubs out of European football, is there any positives for Celtic to kick out the campaign? I mean, I think the only positive for me was just getting it out of the group, just getting to knock out Skeg football, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's how low the bar's probably been set by Celtic this season. That is like a surprise in itself that Celtic were actually able to get out of the league phase, because some of the performances around the really crunch period to get out of the league phase, you wouldn't have expected that from Celtic, but they pulled it out of the bag, and credit to them for that. But yeah, they really sort of undone a lot of that good work with the first leg performance, and yeah, not too much to take from this for Celtic. I think they want to be in the competition above next season, but whether they will be is obviously a different question. But hopefully the Scottish clubs can seize the opportunity to qualify in those European spots while they're there, because we know in seasons to come we're not going to have as much opportunity because of how much of a hit the coefficient's taken. And yeah, I think all the clubs need to look at themselves and do a lot better. But tonight was certainly a start. I know it doesn't mean anything in the context of the European journey this season, but it helps the coefficient, and hopefully it can maybe start a new slate for Scottish clubs in Europe, and all 5 of our teams get into the European League phase football next season. Very ambitious, I know, but Rangers and Celtic financially should be in there. You'd expect them to be in at least one competition. Hearts, with their investment, if they were to win the league, then Tony Bloom will certainly go again and look to retain the title. And even if they don't win the league, they'll go again. I think this season's shown there's vulnerability and there's an opportunity there to a gap in the market, you could say, to try and challenge Celtic and Rangers in the 21st century. And Tony Bloom's taking it, and whether they win the league or not, I think they'll sort of get a lot of money back into the squad again in the summer and really make an attempt at trying to qualify for the league phase. And even for Motherwell, I think they would have an excellent chance if they keep a hold of Jens Berthel. But I think they'd be doing very well to do that. I think he will be leaving Motherwell in the summer and quite possibly heading to Celtic Park.
One man that goes under the radar at times at Celtic is Young. I thought he had another good game today. He defended well at times as well, but he goes under the radar because that he doesn't get spoken about when you're speaking about a Celtic game as well. But he goes about his business quietly. He might not be the best player in the world, Ethan, but I mean, if you put him into a game, he can certainly do a kind of ton for you.
Yeah, exactly that, and I think that's what we've seen from him. And at moments, you see why in some bursts you see him go on a dribble and drop a few wee step overs in there and beat a few defenders, and you see why this guy was so highly rated and expected to go into big things coming out of South Korea. It's obviously not worked out really immediately for him, but he's sort of carved a career out of being at Celtic, and whether that's down to the lack of quality Celtic have brought in across the squad is another question. But he's there, he's fighting for his position, and I think it's been ever since Wilfred Nancy, to be honest. I thought he was one of the best performers under Wilfred Nancy in that right wing back role, and obviously he's carried that into playing under Martin O'Neill for a bit. Scored an excellent goal against Rangers, and I think the Celtic fans would love for him to do that again at Ibrox. But whether he'll start is obviously up for debate, but I think he'll certainly have a part to play, whether that be in the starting 11 or off the bench, and he'll be a key player between now and May for Celtic in terms of the title race and the Scottish Cup.
Kafke is suspended on Sunday. I think he's suspended for the Aberdeen game as well.
Aberdeen, Motherwell at home.
Aberdeen, yeah. I was going to ask you, do you think it'll be a bit of a loss on Sunday for Celtic? But I mean, it does kind of weird silly things at times. I mean, if you look at the red card they had on Sunday, or like I think the Habs guy made a bit of a meal over it, but I mean, as soon as you lift your hands on the park now, no matter what you do, it's a red card all day long. So, do you think it's Celtic will miss him on Sunday, or?
Yeah, I think they certainly will. He's established a partnership with Liam Scales since Cameron Carter-Vickers got injured, and he does show at points he's a really top defender. He's good on the ball at points. He's very quick. He's got good recovery pace. He can sometimes sense danger well, but sometimes he has some absolute deer in the headlights moments, you could say. But most central defenders do, in fairness. But yeah, I think he will be a big miss. I think because then you're relying on the vastly inexperienced certainly at Celtic, Dane Murray. I know he played a lot of games in the Championship last season for Queen's Park, I think it was, but he's not played a lot for Celtic this season. And you obviously look at the last big game against one of the title contenders he was thrown in for, was at Tynecastle, and well, that was an absolute car crash performance for him under Brendan Rodgers. Obviously, he was chose to play ahead of Austin Trusty, which was the big controversial call. And but yeah, I think for either Murray or Arthur, it's a big challenge, but it's a massive opportunity as well for either of them to probably make or break their Celtic careers. I think if Dane Murray has a good performance, then he could be a Celtic player in the future. If he has another performance maybe half as poor as he did at Tynecastle, then I think he maybe moved on and Celtic look elsewhere. For Benjamin Arthur, if he was to have a poor performance, then he might not see the pitch again before he goes back to Brentford with obviously Dane Murray there. So yeah, big opportunity for either player, a lot of pressure on them. But this is the kind of moments that you want as a footballer, especially a young player. So excellent opportunity for either of them to go up alongside Liam Scales, and just hopefully from a Celtic point of view they take the opportunity and play. And Dane Murray's case play as well as he did tonight, and hopefully Benjamin Arthur can play as well as Dane Murray did tonight also, if he's the one to get the nod.
I think as well, I touched upon this early on, the more games that Dane Murray will play or Kobe Donovan together, the more experience that they'll get, and they won't get any higher experience in a European game away to Stuttgart tonight.
Yeah, exactly that, and this has been a problem at Celtic for a while now, bringing through players and holding on to them from the youth system. And these are two players that, okay, they're maybe not as talented as your Kieran Tierney of the past, but they've shown in moments that they've got quality and they can be of use to Celtic. But I think they just need to give them the opportunity to play in games and develop. Obviously, I think Kobe Donovan, you can see he's very raw in his play, but he's very positive, he's confident, and he's willing to give a lot for Celtic Football Club. And I think you see the same sort of things from Dane Murray as well. But they both done themselves very proud tonight, and I think they'll be a part of the Celtic furniture, certainly for the rest of the season. But I think the performances between now and then will dictate whether they're here for the long haul or not.
Yeah, they'll definitely have game time, Ethan, because Celtic didn't spend a lot of money in the summer, not in the window, and they're going to play a lot of games now. What is it, 4 games in the space of maybe a few weeks, including that away game in hand game against Aberdeen that's Wednesday night. I think that Martin O'Neill will kind of like rotate the squad.
Yeah, for that game at Pittodrie, I think he will. Obviously, it's not an ideal game to be sort of switching the team about, but a few changes here and there will hopefully be enough to get the 3 points there from a Celtic point of view. And I think he'll be a lot more confident to rotate the team now after what he's seen tonight. He's seen 11 players that started the match. How many of them he planned to have in his start 11 for Sunday, we don't know. And the players who came off the bench also, that they are capable players that can put in a performance, whether that when you put them in a different scenario where there's more pressure on the game, we'll see. But yeah, positive signs from that Celtic team tonight, and looking to the future, it looks a lot more brighter, I'd say, than it did before the game. But Celtic still need to go and get a result on Sunday, or all the hard work will really be undone from tonight, it would seem.
We haven't spoke about Stuttgart. We've done the show for like more than ever, and we haven't spoke about Stuttgart, but I think that's getting to Celtic how well that they play tonight. But do you think that from a Stuttgart point of view, they took the foot off the gas a wee bit?
I think they might have done, and might have been expected, but at the same time, the players who Sebastian Hoeneß brought in to replace the ones that started last week or the ones that started at the weekend, they had the same opportunity that Celtic players did to let their manager know that they're capable of starting in the strongest 11, and I don't think any of the players that came in really impressed me at all. So yeah, I just don't think they really were up for the game, and they treated it as if it was kind of over. I think Celtic maybe did as well to an extent, but they had players coming in that wanted to seize the opportunity to impress the manager, and I just don't think Stuttgart really done themselves any justice in that sense. A wee bit of a reverse from the first leg, I'd say. I thought Celtic done themselves proud and put in a really solid performance tonight, whereas they didn't in the first leg, and I thought Stuttgart got away because they won by 3 goals, but they didn't really have to get a second gear, it seemed, at Celtic Park, and it was all very easy for them, whereas tonight Celtic put them under a little bit of pressure and they weren't really up for the task, it seemed, which is fair enough. They were home and hosed pretty much for the whole game, but it just shows that if Celtic had maybe played a little bit better for large periods of that first leg, that it might have been a lot more of a competitive tie, and that's what I expected it to be. I know Stuttgart were a top team, but I thought if Celtic could play at their best, then they could have gave them a closely contested game over 2 legs, and that's the disappointing thing, that Celtic were so poor and so far off of Stuttgart in the first leg, and it shows tonight that if you put a little bit of pressure on them and press as a team and organise your press properly, that you can cause top sides problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how Celtic started off that way and continued all the way through the whole game, but we haven't saw Celtic done that for a while. High press. I mean, I always speak about this, like Aberdeen, Rangers, and another team came to Celtic Park, and for some reason Celtic can't handle that.
A high press.
Yeah.
Yeah, Motherwell. They obviously done it at home to great effect, and Celtic barely got a kick of the ball the last time the two teams met. But yeah, Celtic, the press in the last 2 games was non-existent. They were a couple seconds behind where they needed to be. In the first leg against Stuttgart, I could see the next pass for Stuttgart, and the Celtic players just weren't seeing it. They weren't reacting to what was going on quick enough, and it was too easy for Stuttgart. They were just passing it around Celtic, whereas you've got to press as a team and take risk and put the opposition under pressure. Of course, sometimes the ball's going to break their way and they're going to be able to counter-attack and have the advantage on you in numbers, but that's all part of it. You need to risk it for the rewards of it, and we've seen that a few times tonight. Celtic turned over the ball well, but yeah, I think they'll need to play like that on Sunday, against which will be a very different team. Stuttgart like to play up the thirds. Rangers, as we know, I think this season have not been shy of going direct, and they have major threats from set pieces. Emmanuel Fernandez, he'll be very difficult for Celtic to handle, and Celtic need to make sure that they're concentrating and they avoid giving away cheap set pieces, because Rangers will eat them up when it comes to that front, especially while you're having a set piece coach that Celtic don't. But I think at the moment there's a lot bigger problems at Parkhead rather than set piece coaches before they even get to that. But that probably shows how far behind I think Celtic are in that aspect.
By the way, just to finish off, Ethan, right, what do you think of set pieces, set piece coaches and defend the defence coaches and all the rest of it. Do you feel though that football's turning into rugby with all these kind of coaches?
Yeah, it's becoming more and more analytical by the by the seasons. Really, as it's becoming like rugby or American football. I'd probably use as a more I don't know, maybe similar example where in American football, the NFL, they're drawing up the plays and they're making a play for each sort of situation, and that's what's happening with corners and long throw-ins and free kicks. Even kickoffs, you've seen teams, I think it was at Stuttgart, or it might have been Hibs at the weekend, it was one of the two sides had a plan from the kickoff to get in on Celtic's goal. It didn't work, but they tried it, and these are kind of things that the small margins are sometimes in sports, and I think we've seen that the top football clubs are trying to squeeze the smallest of margins out of the games. You look at Arsenal this season, they've not been a sort of an excellent team in terms of playing the ball about, but when it comes to corner kicks, they're absolutely excellent and almost impossible to defend. And at the end of the day, I think the days of playing pretty football and keeping possession and tiki-taka and all that stuff is all means nothing if the other team scores more goals than you. Of course, that's always been the case in football, but I think we're learning there's other ways to win football matches, and set pieces is becoming an even bigger and bigger part of the game, and that's why Hearts and Rangers have scored so many from them this season, because they've got a set piece coach who obviously works on that week in, week out, and I think make what you will of it. For these people who probably get paid a lot of money to do it, it's probably quite an easy job. You set up a few set pieces a week and that's you, but it helps the teams, and that's it. It's squeezing every bit of sort of, I don't know, advantage over the opponents that you can, and I think it could play a big part on Sunday, because Rangers have been very good at this season, especially freeing up Emmanuel Fernandez to header the ball in the back of the net.
There you go. Football used to be a simple game. Next season we might see 11 AI football players on the park, or chat GBT or whatever it's called. I always get a bit tongue-tied when I say that's too many letters for me as well. So thanks to Ethan for joining me tonight on this European special. Obviously, the final score from Stuttgart was Stuttgart 0, Celtic 1. Celtic out of Europe because they get beat 4-2 in aggregate. I will be back tomorrow night for the weekend preview, and then on Sunday for look back at the big games, including the big game at Ibrox between Rangers and Celtic, and then we'll be back next midweek again following Celtic up to Aberdeen. So that's what we do here on the Football Zone. And don't forget, on next Monday night, we've got a show coming up. Who knew? But next Monday, we've got a show focusing on St Johnstone as well. And we've got an interview with Agan Webb, not the pop star, just in case you forget. But Agan Webb's the owner of St Johnstone. And then we've got Alistair Blair. You might know Alistair. He's appeared a few times on the show. He's wrote a book about St Johnstone, so he'll be on the show talking about that. So thanks to Ethan for joining us tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow night live at 5 o'clock.
Following Celtic in the Europa Cup.